Hi guys, Idle here. If you're new to reclamation algorithm or you just want some nifty advice to help you grow further along your run, well, look no further. In this video, I'm going to share 7 quick and easy tips to help you optimize your RA gameplay. And without further ado, number 1, use harvester tools. Every time you go to resource zones, of course the goal is to clean the map out. However, just running only operators themselves won't cut it, because you won't have the sufficient DPS as well as the way to carry them back even with a high-end roster. That's why you should be bringing their respective resource gatherer tools in multiples. They're really efficient and do all the cutting and carrying back for you. I personally recommend bringing 3 of the gatherer tool that you need. Think of the resources spent as a self-sustaining investment that will save you time because you're basically clearing out maps in one go. Number 2. Prioritize building your planters ASAP. Planters, or planting box groups, are basically farms that generate rice for you each day. You really want to prioritize building these as well, because by doing so, you're able to passively generate the food, which would then basically make your trips into the stages pretty much free. You'll basically be in absolutely no pressure to hunt anymore once you build enough of these. You also want to prioritize building these in the early going as well, because there is an in-game season, drought, which cuts planter generation to nearly nothing. However, if you build them quick enough, you should be sitting on a fat stack of meat, which you'll only be able to save because you're using the rice to pay for your trips, so you should be in no pressure to hunt for that season. Number 3. Build defenses in your outposts instead of your HQ. I promise you, you don't need to build a setup on your base. Like, here's mine by the end of my RA run, there's literally nothing on it. And look, I know what you're thinking. If I build on my base, I only need to build one defensive setup. Me genius. And I'm here to tell you that this is a really bad idea. The base is too big, too hard to keep track of, and it's surrounded by red boxes. The moment you face any ranged opponents in the early and mid game, such as this guy, or worse, this guy, they're just gonna blow massive holes in your makeshift maze and run straight to your HQ core. Instead, you should be intercepting the enemies, the raids, and the outposts directly outside of your base are basically designed for this. The smaller maps are also just far easier to build and play for in general. There's far less red boxes and they're only directly opposite the blue boxes, so it's easier to make a linear maze. Sure, the highest tier of wall does gain camouflage, which would avoid the problem of ranged units breaking them. However, you do need to get to the late game first, and you won't get there if you don't drop the ego and build in your outposts instead. Number 4. Bring battlements and walls to your normal runs. You actually can bring them to any stage, not just while building your defenses. In maps with inconvenient geometry or in conflict zones that have red boxes super close to the blue boxes, the deployable walls and ranged tiles are really handy. Being able to deploy a ranged unit somewhere more flexible can actually make or break some fights depending on your roster level. Just bringing the level 1 deployable walls and ranged tiles are generally sufficient, and as you progress, I also recommend bringing other constructs like the Watchtower class tree. That one basically opens up the whole map and makes playing them much more convenient. I also recommend bringing the deployable walls in your raid fights. You can use them to refresh your broken setup mid-fight, and if all else does fail, you could do something less than honorable.
Fuck you!
Number 5. Generally avoid encounters. Encounters are, generally speaking, not really good investments of your time or axe compared to actually getting resources yourself. Sure, doing these don't cost you any food, but food is generally negligible if you prioritize building planters. Considering you want to consolidate resources as fast as you possibly can, you generally want to avoid interacting with these if you can help it. Number 6. Free deserted towns. There are certain nodes called deserted towns that, when cleared, give you what is essentially an encounter which lets you send out operators to get resources. An important distinction is that, unlike actual encounters or technically rally points, these liberated deserted towns costs no act points whatsoever. It's essentially free resources. You just send operators out that you're not really running anyway, and if you have the planters, food is basically not a cost. Take advantage of this. And last, number 7, take note of the seasons and take advantage of them as much as you can. If you talk to your friends in the base camp, they do give you tips on what season you should go to each area. These are generally good advice to follow. Going to the Oasis area during drought is great because it dries up certain tiles, making them deployable for you and making a bunch of maps much more convenient. Going to the north, the endgame area during monsoon is also good because, well, let's just say a certain fight there actually has hands. And that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions about RA2, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. Feel free to comment if you have any tips of your own that you want to share as well. If you enjoyed the content, feel free to like and sub, and, well, see ya. Thanks for watching.